My world fell apart twice last month. First, when I got the call about Tom's accident at work, and then again when a stranger showed up at my door claiming to be his son. I was still trying to process Tom's death, sorting through his belongings with shaking hands when the doorbell rang. My girls, Jenny, 12, and Katie, 8, were watching cartoons in the living room, their temporary escape from our new reality. I opened the door to find a young man, maybe 18 or 19, shifting nervously on our front porch. "Mrs. Walker?" he asked in a British accent. I'm Alex. I think I'm your husband's son." I felt like someone had knocked the wind out of me. Before I could even respond, I heard Katie's voice behind me. "Mommy, who's that?" I turned to see both my girls standing there, curious eyes darting between me and the stranger at our door. Alex's face softened when he saw them, and before I could stop him, he said, "I'm your brother." Just like that, everything changed. Again. Alex had pictures, so many pictures. Tom, at various ages, standing next to a younger Alex at what looked like a fancy boarding school. There were birthday cards, voice messages, evidence of a whole life Tom had kept hidden from us. From me. "My mom passed away when I was young," Alex explained quietly. "My grandparents raised me, but Tom, he visited when he could. I didn't know about any of you until I saw his obituary online." My head was spinning. All those business trips to the UK, all those times Tom made large cash withdrawals because the shops don't take my card. Had they been for Alex? How many other lies had I built my marriage on? My sister Marie offered to help, volunteering to chaperone when Alex wanted to take the girls out. They went to the aquarium, the park, got ice cream. Katie was thrilled about having a secret brother, like in her TV shows. Jenny was quieter, but I could see the hurt in her eyes, the same questions I had burning inside her. Something about Alex made me uneasy. Maybe it was how carefully he chose his words, or how he made promises to my girls without asking me first. When I confronted him about money, because my mom had pointed out he might be after Tom's estate, he said, "I couldn't take any of your money. You have kids to take care of." Something about the way he said it felt manipulative, like he was trying to appear noble while fishing for an offer. He kept making plans with Katie without consulting me. He'd tell her about future trips to the zoo, to the lake, getting her hopes up before I could even consider if I was comfortable with it. Yes, Marie was there to supervise, and those outings gave me time to break down in private with my mom. But still, something felt off. The breaking point came when Katie hugged him goodbye after another outing, begging him not to leave. "I promise I'll come visit again," he said, looking directly at me. "No," I said firmly. "I think it would be best if you didn't come back here." Katie burst into tears, but I couldn't back down. Later, Marie confronted me about it. "You're judging him without getting to know him," she argued. "He seems like a sweet young man. He grew up mostly without a family, and instead of being jealous that your girls got all his father's attention, he wants to connect with them." But to me, Alex wasn't just Tom's son. He was living proof that my husband had lied to me for years. Every time I looked at him, I saw those lies. My girls didn't need this additional trauma. They were already struggling to cope with their father's death. Marie pointed out that social workers try to keep siblings together because separation can be traumatic. I argued back that it wasn't the same. My girls had only known Alex for a week. She brought up cultural connections, how Alex was part Hawaiian like Tom, while the girls and I are Black. But I didn't buy that argument. Culture isn't about genetics. We live in Oregon. That's our culture. I don't force myself or my girls to participate in African culture just because of our genetics. Katie stopped asking about Alex for a few weeks, and I thought maybe she'd forgotten about him. But yesterday, she brought him up again, and I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. I decided to contact a lawyer after reading comments online about scammers who prey on grieving families. The thought that someone could be cruel enough to do that made me sick, but it also made sense of the unease I'd been feeling. The way Alex had inserted himself into our lives, how he'd introduced himself to my girls before I could stop him, how he kept making promises to them behind my back, it all felt calculated now. The lawyer advised me to get proof of Alex's claims, a DNA test, birth certificate, anything official. But I hesitated. What if the test came back positive? Would that mean Alex had rights to Tom's estate? Most of our assets were in both our names, but there were some investment accounts that were only in Tom's name. I needed that money for my girl's future. But the truth had a way of demanding to be heard. Alex wasn't lying. The DNA test confirmed he was related to my girls. He had more evidence, too. Photos, cards, and voicemails that proved Tom had kept regular contact with him. His grandparents had been his legal guardians, and Tom had been giving them under-the-table child support. Those mysterious cash withdrawals finally explained. What broke my heart even more was learning that Tom had lied to Alex, too. He'd told his son he was a cowboy, then a pro football player. When Alex Googled him and found out that wasn't true, Tom switched to claiming he was an ex-convict with a gangster past. None of it was remotely true. I couldn't understand it. Why would he make up such ridiculous stories? Why lie to everyone? In therapy, I started working through my feelings. My therapist helped me understand why I'd reacted so strongly to Alex. I'd sensed he wanted something from me and my girls. Not money or anything sinister, just connection. But we were all so raw from losing Tom that I couldn't handle any more emotional demands. I'd recoiled from Alex's need, interpreting it as manipulation. Jenny started going to weekly therapy sessions too. Katie tried it but hated it, so we put that on hold. I learned from others' stories about how being separated from biological relatives had affected them. I didn't really understand it. Genes don't mean much to me, but I realized I didn't have to understand it to respect it. I still wasn't ready for a relationship with Alex myself. The sight of him brought up too many complicated feelings about Tom's betrayal. And now Alex seemed afraid of me, which made me feel terrible. I hadn't meant to scare him, but my reaction to him had clearly left its mark. But I couldn't deny the positive effect he had on my girls, especially Katie. The lawyer confirmed that most of Tom's assets would stay with me since they were jointly owned, except for those few investment accounts. Some people might think I'm horrible for caring about money, but I have 2 children to raise and educate. As I tried to process everything, I kept coming back to one haunting question. If I had died instead of Tom, would he have abandoned our girls the way he'd abandoned Alex? I found myself questioning everything about our relationship. When I got pregnant with Jenny in college, Tom had seemed like such a blessing. Older, stable, promising to take care of us and be the good father he never had. I'd fallen in love with his promises, but now I wondered if any of it had been real. When Alex planned another visit, my sister Marie was supposed to supervise. She'd done it before, and it had worked well. I could keep my distance while my girls built their relationship with their brother. But a week before the visit, Marie called to say she couldn't get time off work. Mom was having surgery, and Dad needed to stay home to care for her. I panicked. The thought of supervising Alex's visit myself made my chest tight. I wasn't ready. But canceling wasn't an option. Katie had been looking forward to it for weeks, and it was one of the few things that made her smile since Tom died. After a sleepless night, I set up a Zoom call with Alex and his grandparents. I was honest about my fears and apprehension. Alex wasn't thrilled either. He'd felt comfortable with Marie, not me. But we decided to try anyway, making backup plans in case either of us needed space. Just knowing I had an escape route helped calm my nerves. The visit lasted a week and a half, and to my surprise, it went better than I'd expected. Alex and I maintained a civil distance, and while I still had moments of discomfort, they never became overwhelming. He was wonderful with both girls, but he had a special connection with Katie that I couldn't deny. Katie had been struggling even before Tom died. School problems, multiple diagnoses we were trying to navigate, frequent outbursts that tested everyone's patience. But with Alex, she was different. They spent hours acting out scenes from her favorite movies, and he never seemed to tire of her energy. I realized that maybe what Katie needed most was someone who just wanted to spend time with her, without any expectations or demands. Before he left, I wrote Alex a thank you card. It wasn't easy, but I told him how much his patience with Katie meant to me, and that I hoped he'd stay involved in their lives. His next visit, though, was more complicated. He brought his girlfriend, polite enough, but not particularly interested in my girls. Katie struggled with sharing Alex's attention and had several meltdowns. It wasn't the joyful reunion we'd had before, but it was real. That's family, I suppose, messy and imperfect. They're coming for Thanksgiving at my parents' house this year. A year ago, I could barely look at Alex without seeing Tom's lies. Now, I'm learning to see him as his own person. The pain hasn't gone away completely, but it's different. I still don't know why Tom lied so much. The best explanation I can piece together comes from his background in foster care. He never kept in touch with anyone from his past, not foster families, not childhood friends. When he talked about his childhood, it was always vague, general statements about how horrible it was. I'd respected his reluctance to share more, but now I wonder if his habit of keeping different parts of his life separate was some kind of coping mechanism. I'll never know for sure, but I'm learning to live with the uncertainty. Jenny's doing better in high school, throwing herself into activities. Katie's started equestrian therapy, though we don't call it therapy, and while it hasn't magically fixed everything, she enjoys it. We're all healing in our own ways. Sometimes I catch myself watching Alex with my girls, seeing glimpses of Tom in his smile or the way he laughs. It still hurts, but not like before. The betrayal will always be part of our story, but it's not the whole story anymore. We're writing new chapters now, messy and complicated as they may be, but at least they're honest. That's something Tom never managed to give us, honesty. But maybe in some twisted way, his lies brought us Alex, and Alex is teaching me that family isn't always what you expect it to be. Sometimes it shows up unannounced on your doorstep, forcing you to face uncomfortable truths. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to let it in, it helps you heal.